In the darkest corner of reality, where shadows intertwine with whispers of mystery, lies a realm where thoughts transform into living entities, dancing between invisible dimensions. It is in this intriguing domain that we immerse ourselves today, exploring the depths of the mind and unraveling the enigmas hidden within the folds of thought. Imagine a world where every idea, every aspiration, every whisper in the darkness of consciousness takes shape, acquiring its own life. In this fascinating journey, we encounter a visionary, a master of the occult, a guide through mental labyrinths. Ernest Holmes. His words, beyond mere sounds, are keys that unlock doors to the unknown, to the materialization of our own destinies. Thoughts are not mere abstractions, but forces that shape reality itself. Dare to venture into the realm of the unexplored, where the boundaries between the tangible and the ethereal blur. Prepare to discover that, in the invisible fabric of existence, every thought is a thread weaving the tapestry of your own reality. Welcome to Thoughts Are Things by Ernest Holmes, an audiobook that unveils the layers of the human mind, revealing a universe of infinite possibilities. Open your ears and let the magic of words take you beyond the imaginable, where ancient wisdom blends with fantasy and mystery. Preface. Imagine possessing the knowledge to attract happiness, prosperity, health, and success into your life. Would you be willing to share this secret? Would you accept it and apply it? Well, that is the secret I am delighted to share with you. Our thoughts have significant power over each of our experiences. Thoughts range from the simplest things, like a shopping list, to the most fundamental questions of our lives, such as love and happiness. Everything we say, write, and believe eventually materializes in the very circumstances of our existence. That's why I admire Dr. Ernest Holmes' book. Its importance for the spiritual freedom of every man, woman, or child is exceptional. Without the need for sermons, it teaches us to transform the darkness of fear, anger, jealousy, and uncertainty into courage, understanding, compassion, and security. This book will guide you from chaos to harmony. Ernest Holmes was one of the most significant spiritual philosophers of our time. He succeeded in merging centuries of wisdom into a modern, practical, and pragmatic approach to fully living life. Thought, something we practice every day, is the key to a fulfilling, rich, satisfying, and generous life. I invite you to bring this book into your home, read it over and over, and put its precious advice into practice. The transformation of your ideas will change your life. Move forward. You deserve it. Chapter 1. The world around you. What do you think of yourself? Have you ever asked yourself the most fundamental question? What is the image you have of yourself? If the answer is negative, it would be wise to deeply analyze your ideas. An article in a British medical journal, The Practitioner, specifically pointed out that doctors should be careful about what they think of their patients, because there seems to be tangible evidence that, in some way, patients react according to the doctor's idea of them. If the doctor believes that patients won't get better, this belief seems to influence the patient's attitude, and they don't heal. Regarding the connection of this idea with our thinking, we cannot emphasize enough that if what others think of us somehow affects our experience, the effect our own ideas have on us is even more important. We live according to our thoughts. If our thoughts always revolve around illness, failure, and bad relationships, who will be surprised if we never free ourselves from these experiences? We cannot do much to change what others think of us, but we can do a lot to change the idea we have of ourselves. We can afford to think of ourselves in a different way, without always keeping in mind the best desirable experiences. We already have enough daily problems, not to create additional problems stemming from the negative nature of our thinking. If we want to influence others, we must start by influencing ourselves. But it is important to ensure that this influence leads us in the right direction. Identity. Knowing that the great I Am is always available to you facilitates your communication with it and allows you to become aware of the presence of the Spirit within you. Through quiet contemplation of the action of the Spirit on all things, you learn to look beyond appearances and see through them the invisible side of reality that shapes all conditions and recreates all your problems in a way closer to the divine pattern. With a more penetrating spiritual discernment, You can dispel obstacles, eliminate all wrong conditions. Now, I seek health instead of illness, wealth instead of poverty, happiness instead of sadness. By improving my control over the feeling of denial, whether it be pain or poverty, I test how the law of the spirit operates. Any thought inspired by fear or limitation disappears from my consciousness. I know that my word transmutes energy into constructive action and produces health, harmony, happiness, and success. I know that there is something at the core of my being that is absolutely sure of itself, possesses total security, and gives me complete certainty that everything is well. I maintain my condition of divine being here and now. Science has made extraordinary progress recently, opening new worlds of knowledge. Many things that seemed impossible before are now commonplace. Every day, newspaper headlines tell us about new and better ways of doing things. We are no longer surprised by new discoveries, as we expect science to always achieve its goals, whatever our problem. We feel that science has the answer, and indeed it provides us with many answers, and many more are yet to come. It is entirely justified to seek help in science in many different ways, but we cannot rely on science to provide us with all the answers we need. Dr. Gunnar Gundersen, former president of the American Medical Association, significantly emphasized that we cannot live on science alone, and that cold and austere scientific methods do not satisfy either the physician or the patient. Something more is needed. According to Gundersen, there must be warmth, empathy, understanding, and faith. Man does not live by bread alone. We need something more than food to be happy, and something more than a pill to regain health. This something more is love and faith, and science provides us with neither. Only we can offer the experience of love, and we can only do that if we learn to release our emotions from all fear, resentment, hatred, and anger. We must have faith that life expresses itself through us, in all its perfection, without the feeling of love and faith, and the conviction that the life we host presents no obstacles. All scientific healing techniques are of little use. You know that there is a divine power at the heart of every being, a power that knows no lack or limitations, no fear, illness, anxiety, or imperfection. But as an individual, you can build a wall of negative thoughts between you, me, and that perfection. The wall that prevents you from accessing the supreme good is composed of mental blocks united by fear and suspicion and mixed with negative experiences. It is not necessary for poverty and pain to accompany your life experience. Tell yourself that within me there is a presence, a force, and a law that irresistibly attracts my experiences, everything that makes life worth living. I know that friendship, love, wealth, health, harmony, and happiness are made for me. I know that nothing bad can come from me. Thus, the goodness I receive only completes a circle, satisfies the desire I feel for all things. I refuse to judge by appearances, whether mental or physical, regardless of what they seem to indicate. There is always a higher power. I trust this force with absolute certainty that it will never disappoint me. I reject all evil, free myself from the fear that accompanies it, and continually exercise a power that belongs to me by right. Enjoy life. It is well known that many people resort to illness to avoid actively participating in life. For example, some people develop all the symptoms of coronary disease when they cannot achieve their goals. Even if a careful examination reveals no presence of such a disease, it is simply one of the manifestations of a well-known mechanism that we all use from time to time to avoid doing what we want. In such situations, it is good to remember the fundamental nature of life itself. First and foremost, life is an active, creative process. The moment its activity diminishes, a certain stagnation appears, and vitality decreases tremendously. We must always penetrate deeper into the essence of life, never less. By moving away from what we should do, we cease to have a fuller experience of the vitality that the life within us brings. This does not mean, of course, that we must continually immerse ourselves in unpleasant tasks, but rather that we must approach these tasks with a different attitude so that they do not seem unpleasant to us. If we allow ourselves to consider certain aspects of what is presented to us as ungrateful activity and want to abandon it, we will only deprive our life experience of a fuller vitality. You are connected to all things. You are one with the eternal light itself. The presence of the Spirit in you blesses all it encounters, tends to heal all it touches, brings joy to the life of all those in contact with you. Therefore, you are a blessing to yourself, to humanity, and to the day you live. Today I discover the perfection that resides in me in its fullness. I reveal the kingdom that dwells within me. I observe the universe of my life, knowing that the Spirit within me makes my path straight and easy to trace. I know that there is nothing in me that can hinder or in any way deviate from the shared circuit of life and love that is God. My word dissolves all negative thoughts and impulses that could darken my perfection. Wisdom shines in my thoughts and actions. Life brings harmony to my body so that it revitalizes, and its perfection manifests in every cell, every organ, and every function. Love brings harmony to my mind so that joy sings in my heart. I am in total unity with the good, assured and free. Nowadays, it is possible to take out insurance to cover almost every situation and be reimbursed in case of possible loss. In fact, our desire to protect ourselves from any loss has made insurance one of the great current sectors of activity. In many cases, the premiums we pay for this protection are like a constant bleeding for our wallets. But we believe that it is money well spent, especially when we actually suffer a loss and the insurance covers the expenses. We feel satisfied to have been protected in this way. However, insurance is useless if we do not experience any loss. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have insurance that protects us from the possibility of having an accident? To a large extent, this insurance is available to us, and the premium is not prohibitively high. In fact, it's not a matter of money at all to the extent that it's free insurance. Although this is not the case in all respects, we must take the time and make the effort to pay it with good control of our thoughts and emotions. We can have free insurance that guarantees us good health, but we must be aware that good health is our natural state and stop constantly calling illness with worries and anxieties. The same applies to our relationships and affairs. We can ensure that they always enjoy good health if we stop emotionally and mentally harboring their opposites. It's never too late to take out good free insurance. Be safe. Don't be like Job, who exclaimed, "What I feared the most has happened to me." Instead, free yourself from your fears and learn that the Spirit of God guides you in everything you do and transforms the path ahead into a path of joy, happiness, and security. Your life is always in God's hands, and if you allow it, He will guide, protect, and safely lead you through all experiences. Say to yourself that the power of divine intelligence is helping me now to control my thoughts and gives me confidence that only good things will be part of my experience. So today, every day, the power of the living Spirit makes the path ahead perfect for me. Divine intelligence always acts on my mind, telling me what is best to do, advising me wisely and guiding me gently but surely on paths of prosperity, happiness, and physical health. I am always protected by divine love. I am safe in God's hands. All feelings of anxiety and insecurity dissolve now and disappear. Only good comes to me and goes out from me. This is what I expect. This is what I accept as my experience. Mental capacity. It seems that most of us are quite well endowed in terms of mental capacity, but many people have the curious idea that it decreases with age. In a study by the Naval Research Office, it was discovered that at 50 our mental capacity would probably be better than at 20. In fact, intellectual faculties seem to increase with age. Of course, this is excellent news for those of us who are 20. In any case, let's not mentally collapse and not allow it to happen. It's a good idea to keep it in mind. Apparently, the only thing that can hinder our thinking ability is the belief that we are losing it. However, the trap in this matter lies in the preconceived idea that our mental faculties are already well developed. Have we already set all its gears in motion? Have we already fully utilized the billions of nerve cells in our brain? We all like to think that we think, but aren't our thoughts like a record that repeats itself endlessly with monotonous regularity? It is possible that we know a melody and play it over and over again in a certain way. We all have this problem, but we also have the ability to deal with new ideas, to expand our knowledge. It's never too late to start using our capacity. It's like developing stronger muscles. The more we use them, the more we can continue to use them. So, over time, the more we think, the more we will be able to continue thinking. So start thinking and continue more and better for the rest of your days. Inspiration. The Apostle John tells us that Jesus said, "God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." Certainly, the conception of the union of all life that Jesus proclaimed in the ecstasy of his enlightenment, "I and my Father are one, you are one with this spirit, and cannot separate yourself from it." Your word is powerful because your word is the action of God through your thought. Say now that I clarify my vision and purify my thought to become a mirror that reflects inspiration directly from the secret place occupied by the highest altitude at the center of my own being. And I do this through quiet contemplation, without the need for extraordinary efforts, but rather by learning to fast from all negation and feast on affirmations of spiritual realization. I know that I must not collapse under the impact of the influence around me. Today I walk in the light of divine love. It guides me, and my direction multiplies. There is an inspiration in me that governs every act, every thought, with certainty and conviction, in peace. I know that the key that opens the treasure house, the key to the kingdom of God, is in my spiritual hand. And today I enter. I enter the kingdom of God and inspect it. It is the kingdom of God's creation. Protect yourself. There are many things to defend against in life, but now we are told that one of the most important is the infectious nature of the ideas and emotions of others. An editorial in the Journal of the American Medical Association stated that mental health and illness are as contagious as a smile or measles. We cannot neglect the implications such an idea has for all of us. Of course, we use the term contagious in two different senses. We can be infected by joy or sadness, security or fear, stability or instability from others if we allow ourselves to be infected by the fears of others. This will, in turn, be what we can transmit to others. It is great to think about the proportions that such a chain reaction could reach. On the other hand, we have the hopeful idea that positive factors are also contagious and spread in the same way. Regardless of the potential contagion of negative thoughts from a person, we all have a certain factor of inner resistance. We can decide to a large extent whether we want to allow ourselves to be infected. We must develop our mental and emotional stability to the point of resisting the acquisition of undesirable mental attitudes that only completely destabilize our body and leave us totally exposed to serious physical problems. On the other hand, the good things we adopt from others can contribute to our health and well-being. What we must remember is that it is only you who determines which ideas you are susceptible to and to what extent you absorb them. Do not stay with the wrong type of thoughts. Constructive ideas are necessary to experience all the joy of life. If you identify with something other than this joy itself, the images in your mind attract you, and also the people, circumstances, and situations that resemble them. When you realize this, you will understand that to change undesirable conditions or protect yourself from them, you must necessarily change the basic pattern of your ideas. This requires constantly monitoring what you allow into your mind or what you allow to drift from negative past experiences. When a thought is in some way contrary to your well-being, you must get rid of it immediately and replace it with its opposite, that idea that only affirms your well-being. Anyway, tell yourself that you are a son or daughter of the heights, that you possess the intelligence and perfection behind all things, as the nature of thought is to become external to the person, attracting those conditions that exactly correspond to it. I affirm that my thoughts are guided by the divine. I harbor only constructive ideas and reject all others. I am aware that there is a principle of perfection at the center of my being, an invisible presence that constantly manifests itself from me and through me, in all directions my life takes. Today and always, good conduct. We all expect good conduct from others and continually emphasize its importance to our children. Most of us think that, on our part, we behave quite well, but is it true, or are we deceiving ourselves? On the outside, it may seem that we behave well, but the behavior that matters most is not visibly. To what extent are our ideas disciplined? Probably much more than they seem to be. Dr. Dwight L. Wilbur, a member of the American College of Physicians, claims that between 1 and 2/3 of people who consult a doctor have no recognized organic disease. This does not mean that their illness is imaginary, but that it is dysfunction caused by their way of thinking. Once again, we face the same question. What are we causing ourselves with the things we allow ourselves to think? And often, the answer is more harm than good. With our way of thinking, we not only harm our bodies, but we also negatively influence all the situations we face. We spend a lot of time complaining about all kinds of problems, but we rarely go looking for the ideas that have caused us such problems. As long as we do not act and impose some discipline on our thinking, the same monotonous ideas will continue to repeat themselves, and our problems will remain unresolved. At any moment, we can start educating our ideas in the rudiments of good conduct. It's simply a matter of thinking more about what we want rather than what we don't want. Our life experiences are the result of the ideas in our minds, so all we need is for our thoughts to behave properly. Good orientation. Good is at the foundation of all things, even though it may seem absent. But we must recognize its presence because there is only one Spirit, and it is in you and in all things. Wherever you go, you will find it. You will find the Spirit in people, in places, and in things. This unique Spirit that manifests in everything and through everything, including yourself, automatically adjusts the parts of the whole. Thus you can accept without fear that the Spirit within you precedes you and prepares the way. Your faith is placed in something real, certain, like the laws of life, as exact as the principles of mathematics. It is the life force that gives strength to each of your thoughts, to each of your actions when they are in harmony with it. Tell yourself now that the Spirit that dwells in me goes before me and makes the path of my experiences perfect, smooth, easy, and happy. There is nothing in me that can obstruct the divine circuits of life, totality, and perfection. My positive world dissolves any negative thought or impulse, projecting the shadow of imperfection on the limits of my experience. I identify only with the living Spirit, with all the energy, all the presence, and all the life that exists. I lift my cup as a sign of approval, knowing that divine rain will fill it to the brim with resources for life to be a wonderful experience for us. It seems that individuals must always be engaged in some form of creative activity. We can busy ourselves with things that help fill the hours and entertain the mind, but in the long run we will miss that satisfaction that comes only from accomplishing something creative and worthwhile. In this regard, Dr. Eleanor Chrissy of Cornell University has suggested that people approaching retirement should have developed internal and external resources to turn to. According to her, creative activity is vital and should be pursued for the simple pleasure it provides. From a certain point of view, the desire and need to be creative are not acquired, but innate in each of us. If we are not aware of it or do not address it, our lives seem empty. Creativity proves to be a necessity for everyone, from children who enjoy doing things even as simple as making mud cakes, to young adults and the elderly, who must find the means, medium, and channel to express themselves constructively if they want to discover the joy of living. Recently, the great success of the do-it-yourself movement reflects the need for individuals to discover new ways to be creative. Perhaps it is because many earn their living with routine activities that do not offer the opportunity to express their individuality. Some of us, regardless of our age, must find ways to express the creative impulse of life within us to fully enjoy life. It is never too late to start the right action. The right action is one where every legitimate and constructive goal you have in mind is successfully achieved. This means that you know what to do, how to think, how to act, how to proceed. You know with certainty that if your ideas are in line with the divine nature, God's law is strengthened in your actions. Thus there is nothing in you or around you that can limit your creative thoughts. The power is within you, and the action stemming from this power produces harmony, peace, happiness, and success. Know that in the awareness of the divine nature lies the food to satisfy all my physical, mental, or spiritual needs, and I accept this food with the utmost gratitude. I give thanks because it is the form of life that fulfills my needs through the gates of my inner being. And I give thanks because I know how to use this perfect law. I turn to this great source of food at the very center of my being to absorb everything I need mentally or physically, and I immerse myself with the awareness of the reality of what I desire. I allow this awareness to permeate my world of thoughts and actions, knowing that it will bring peace, harmony, and order to my environment. In me is born a renewed faith in the limitless resources of the divine presence, the perfect law, and now there is only right action in everything I do. Mental recordings tend to weary us of hearing the same track over and over again. Of course, it is easy to stop the recording and regain peace, but what about our thoughts, those ideas that seem to continue one after the other in our minds? We regularly repeat the same thought pattern endlessly, and the song we hear is definitely not to our liking. It has been said that the neurotic thought pattern repeats itself endlessly, often involving feelings of hatred, fear, anxiety, and guilt. If there is perpetual motion, it is precisely when we are caught in the wheel of our negative thinking. We are accustomed to leaning back and spending hours listening to the same songs, thus exhausting our energy. There are many mental recordings that can be enjoyable and beneficial, although discovering them may take some time. The record of hatred must be replaced by that of love, the record of fear by that of trust, the record of anxiety by that of faith, and the record of guilt by that of forgiveness. After a while we will realize that we can change them automatically and set up a more harmonious music. Free yourself from fear. Freeing your heart from fear is possessing implicit confidence in the good, the lasting, and the true. Fear is all we need to fear. It is not the host attacking you or the confusion surrounding you. What you must fear is simply a lack of confidence in the good. Through your spiritual vision, you know that only good is permanent and everything else is transient. You know that justice eventually dissolves everything that opposes it. The strength of the spirit reigns over all its antagonists. Thus you must not feel fear, and when you have neither hatred nor fear within you, then you will understand the unity of life. I am aware that fear is not from God because it contradicts the divine presence, repudiates infinite love, and denies unlimited good. Fear is not a person, a place, or a thing. It is simply an impostor in whom I have believed, whom I have harbored for so long that it appeared real to me. Today I repudiate all fear, renounce all thoughts of hatred, enter into conscious union with the Spirit, accept good as supreme, positive, and absolute. With joy I begin the activities of this day. I remember without regret the deeds of yesterday, and with confidence I look toward tomorrow because today my heart is free from all fear. Handcuffed and footbound, we are all subjected to the dictates of freedom. Freedom compels us, but as such, it also allows us to believe in all those external conditionings that eventually limit us. Similarly, it also allows us to dissolve and make them disappear. It is not enough to say that we attract what we think, but we become what we think and attract what we have become, following the law of the inherent spirit within us. We grow everything we praise. Raise yourself from weakness to strength, from ignorance to abundance, from poverty to wealth. The power of good thoughts is so great that it makes everything unlike them disappear. Chapter 2. How do you live your life? Living is a very personal matter. No one can do it for you. Others can give you advice and make countless suggestions on what you should do and how to do it. There are also the constant suggestions you make to yourself, based on your past successes and failures. However, in the end, all that we have become is now part of our own mental concepts, seasoned by our own emotional and physical nature. You are yourself what you are, and what you will become is the result of the internal motivation you have set for yourself unconsciously. You may have been heading in a different direction than you really wanted to take. When you understand how the mind creates, a new view of life will open up to you. You can only appreciate life and your experiences as supreme things if, beforehand, you become inwardly aware that they are supreme as they are. Inner space, probes sent into outer space, has captivated the imagination of an entire country. In an article on the space age, the author mentioned that the most fundamental motivation for the space race is man's perpetual and insatiable instinct to explore and know his environment. Space is a challenge simply because, like Everest, it is there. It is wonderful to contemplate the infinite that exists beyond us, but what is more amazing is the infinite that exists within us, and of which we are not even aware. Outer space can be explored, but we should not subject our inner space, the realm of our own thought, to an even more intense investigation. What allows us to explore outer space, our own ability to think, is generally one of our great mysteries. Much research has been done on the brain, but the brain is only an instrument of thought. As for thought itself, the one that creates beautiful poetry, art, engineering marvels, and experiences love and affection, little is known. Yet it remains the most important thing we possess, making us human beings. In the future, scientists will pay more attention to this nebulous and elusive object called our mind, but in the meantime, inner space is something we can explore for ourselves. Each of us can become a scientific researcher. The only equipment we need is our thought, and the results of our experiments can have measurable effects in our daily lives. The divine power, everything that exists in nature, is the individualization of a unique life that coordinates everything, a presence, a law of existence. Our minds are so filled with ideas that contradict this fact that even the truth must wait for you to recognize it. You must learn to be aware of the divine presence and power, that truth, love, and reason are everything, instead of taking refuge in negative thoughts. Let your mind recreate itself in peace and joy. Discover the power of the invisible spirit that is working right now within you and through you. Hold on to this knowledge with total certainty. Say, I now know that I am a perfect being, living today in perfect conditions, aware that only the spirit is real. I know there is an energy acting and reacting in my experience, in my body and mind, for my good. I know that this awareness, through the law, brings harmony to my experiences, as well as prosperity and a sense of happiness, peace, health, and joy. Today, I am in communion with the invisible presence that populates the world with the products of its life, light, and love. I remove the veil that hid my true being, and I approach the spirit within me, which is in all things and all people. I accept everything that belongs to the spirit. I desire everything that is part of its nature. Mental health. In recent years, much has been said about mental health. It seems to be something very desirable, but it is not very clear what it is exactly and what we can do as individuals for it. That's why I was delighted to find Dr. Bolbauer's concise statement, the Director of Health Education for the American Medical Association. He said that mental health has to do with the relationship each person establishes with oneself, with those around them, and with the surrounding conditions. If my memory does not fail me, this must sound strangely familiar. Long ago, a definition of religion stated that the purpose of religion is to establish the relationship each of us must have with oneself, with our neighbors, with the world in which we live, and with our God or Creator. It's this fourth point that current mental health programs seem to inadvertently neglect. But it is possible that the success or failure of a mental health program designed for the individual or for an entire society depends on what we think of God and our relationship with Him. Time and again, men and women of science and religion have emphasized that all our thoughts and actions stem from our deepest convictions, and that it is fundamental to human nature to develop a religious attitude, whether constructive or destructive, for our well-being. The relationship with the Creator is something that each of us must clarify for oneself intelligently and emotionally healthy. At this point, any problem that may arise in other areas of interest in mental health programs will automatically resolve itself perfectly. When you consciously climb to the top of a mountain and elevate your thoughts above the general confusion of everything that seems inconsistent or dissociated, You testify to the order of the spiritual cause that lies behind all things. In psychosomatics, as in any other psychological adjustment, the idea that there is a universal order hidden behind all things is always present, an order that is inherently perfect. It is not trivial to assert that divine perfection is in all things and manifests itself in and through each of them in a unique way. I proclaim the perfection of the divine order at the center of my being. Becoming aware of its reality, I let its essence flow through me, claiming it peacefully, expressing its love. I am in communion with life, believing in its power with the faith of a child. I accept the authority of its acts in my daily affairs. Today, I declare the presence and activity of the Spirit in me, in my relationships with others, and in my contacts with the world around me. Problems of any kind all seem to have received our share. Problems we don't like and want to get rid of. But trying to get rid of them raises an interesting question. To what extent have we not created what we want to get involved in? A study on parent and child groups conducted by the Psychological Clinic of the University of Illinois revealed that, to a large extent, the problems parents face with their children result from their own imbalances. In other words, it is the parents who have created what they are trying to solve. Most difficulties we encounter in life do not simply fall into our lap somehow. We have created them unknowingly or attracted them through our way of thinking, feeling, or acting, and similarly, we can also free ourselves from them. Whatever difficulties weigh us down, the first thing to do is understand what we think, as that factor controls what we feel and do. Constantly thinking about our problems or seeking a solution, our ideas contribute to either amplifying or reducing them. Problems tend to arise and disappear for reasons that can be solved through thought. Instead of considering a problem as something that exists entirely outside of us, if we take the time to carefully examine our ideas, we will undoubtedly discover that difficulties arise from within us. Unless we learn to think carefully and discreetly, our ideas will turn into real problems that we will fight against one day. The solutions are divine. God is the omnipotent and omniscient presence and force, and if you can elevate your problem to this very high level of your own consciousness and feel that the answer comes to replace the problem, then your problem will be solved. You must know that there is nothing in you that prevents such a thing from happening, no hesitation or limitation in your mind. You must feel that the answer is established in your consciousness, and it will immediately present itself to your awareness in your current experience. To find the solution to a problem, let go and confidently await the answer. I know that all my actions and thoughts are governed by a higher intelligence. There is something in me that knows how to act. Not only does it know how to act, but it urges me to act in accordance with what it knows. Therefore, everything I need to do, I will do. Everything I need to know, I will know. Faced with any apparent problem or difficulty that comes my way, I will accept divine guidance right now. There is a solution to each of my problems. There is an inward and silent flow of life that carries me safely to my destination, just as to the realization of all my good intentions. Do you love your job? A Gallup poll revealed the astonishing figure that nearly half of the population is dissatisfied with their job, an alarming percentage that highlights a situation that should be examined in depth. But what is really worth examining, jobs or people? It is possible that half of the things to be done in this country are tasks that no one likes to do. This seems almost impossible because there are also a large number of people satisfied with what they do, while others would feel miserable doing the same task. A good question we must ask ourselves is whether we would be happy with any kind of occupation, or are we allergic to work? If we can do something to change a job we don't like, we should also do something to change ourselves. We are the source of our own unhappiness. What makes us unhappy is not what the job does to us, but how we react to it. If we don't know how to find a way to be happy with the work we have now, we will never find a job that could make us even happier. We all have to work because we all have to eat, but we can also be happy in the process. The food tastes better that way. Whatever our job, we must look for what is interesting and enjoyable, even if it's just a part of the activity. We must start by loving something, or else we will never learn to love anything. We must step out of that 50% that feels dissatisfied with its work. Frankly, it doesn't make sense to allow ourselves to be unhappy for more than half of our waking time. Only when we learn to appreciate the work we do will we be able to find another job that we like even more. Non-resistance. Gandhi built his entire life philosophy around the theory of non-violence. An ancient Chinese sage said that anything is possible for the one who knows how to practice inactivity. Jesus said not to resist evil. There must surely be something true in such simple ideas. If this is the case, and if there is this spiritual transcendence of consciousness capable of dissolving the most solid facts, then you should know it and use it. Think of an iceberg under the sun's rays. It will soon dissolve. What was once an obstacle will soon become liquid. Perhaps that is the meaning of the spiritual transcendence of the inner consciousness, of the power of non-violence. All great people, good people, and wise people knew it, but too often we tend to resist what we don't like rather than overcome it. Today, practice non-resistance. Forget everything that seems to contradict the reality I believe in and affirm that reality operates in my life decisively. I turn resolutely away from anything that denies the good I want to experience, while affirming that same good in the midst of fear. I proclaim faith in the midst of uncertainty, conviction in the midst of desire, abundance where there seems to be sadness, and joy where there is sorrow. No situation or condition withstands these transcendent thoughts, for they proclaim the omnipresence of God and the divine direction of the Spirit that accomplishes all. There is an old, well-known saying in the United States that nothing succeeds like success. To this certainly obvious idea, we might perhaps add another less evident one that says we always succeed. What is success? It could be defined as satisfaction, fulfillment, or the achievement of what preeminently occupies our thoughts. Think of those individuals who have succeeded all their lives, who have found joy, happiness, health, and continue to enjoy them in maturity. Others have also succeeded, never had money. Their health has always been delicate. Their family life has been a failure, and everything remains a catastrophe. All have succeeded in living what they always thought would happen to them. Perhaps it would be wise to take a look at our own lives. Do we have everything we want, or only what we expect? There is a big difference because we always succeed. We should be more careful in choosing what we succeed in. Are we successful in what we want, or in what we don't want? And this leads us to wonder what we focus on most of the time, on what we want, or on what we don't want. That is the secret of why some seem to succeed in experiencing all the good in this life, while others seem to have let it pass. When the good of this life passes from one to another, apparently the only way to get our share is to mentally accept the good things that come to us instead of rejecting them. We will never have what we refuse to accept. Words are powerful. We attract or repel things according to our mental attitude. You can identify with scarcity or abundance, with love and friendship, or with indifference. You cannot avoid attracting to your experience what corresponds to the sum total of your states of consciousness. This law of attraction and repulsion works automatically, like the law of reflection. The reflection corresponds to the object in front of the mirror. What care should we take to protect our thoughts, not only by keeping them free from doubt and fear, accepting only good things, but also by rejecting any idea that denies their goodness? Say, I know that accepting only what is good in my experience dispels all doubt in my mind, drives away fear, and eliminates obstacles, allowing what is perfect, true, and lasting to manifest. I have total faith that all the precious ideas that come to me now will come true, as I believe they will. I always act with confidence in the law of the Spirit. So I know that my words will not return void. I accept these words and rejoice in them. I hope that all the ideas of ever-increasing good that I harbor now will fully and satisfactorily come true. Well-calculated ideas coming into this world, we possess more intelligence and wisdom than we will ever admit to having. The body's wisdom to maintain its normal functioning and constantly repair itself will always defy our knowledge. Even more incomprehensible is the mind. The thought processes that start at a more or less instinctive level, but seem to have no limits to their development. Some say that the mind functions like a giant-sized computer. They may be right in many ways, but computers need an operator to make them work. So there seems to be something in us that is beyond and above the mere mechanical functioning of the billions of nerves in our brain. The answers provided by a computer are always related to the facts, figures, and information we have given it. Whether we like it or not, its answers have nothing to do with our question. Everything we do, everything we feel, all our relationships, are the inevitable consequence of the ideas and information we introduce into our minds. It is not only our conscious thoughts, but we also have a large reservoir of memory where we spend years storing things, and it plays a fundamental role in all outcomes. When we don't like what is happening to us, it is easy to blame external conditioning and completely forget that another response is not possible when our mind had to work with the type of information we introduced to it. However, we can always start introducing new outcomes into our experiences if we feed our mind with new data that provides more useful and beneficial responses. Affirming, thinking positively can free your mind from negative thoughts, fears, and doubts. You need to do this if you want to be aware of the presence, peace, and harmony of God that resides in and around you. All the good you desire is waiting for you to accept it, but you won't be able to experience it as long as you continue to deny it. The key to having the right life and ideas is to consistently follow a pattern of positive thinking that affirms that only God's good will enter your life. Say, God is all power, all presence, and all peace. Now I free myself from all fear, doubt, and confusion, and I direct my attention and thoughts to the belief that only good is part of my experience. I have faith that God is perfect and could desire nothing but perfection for all of His creation. Peace, happiness, joy, and satisfaction always accompany me. The good works of God surround me on all sides and flow through everything I experience. With patience, I set aside all doubts and fears that creep into my mind, and with determination, I accept only the wonderful things from the kingdom of God, here and now. God is all the power that is, all the presence that is, and all the life that is, and only what is in accordance with the nature of God will enter my life. Unhappiness is a habit, unpleasant as it may seem. Much of the unhappiness we find in our daily lives is our own doing. There seems to be in us a perverse vein that takes wicked pleasure in wallowing in discouragement, complaining about problems and pitying oneself. Stop to listen a large part of your conversations and pay particular attention to what others are talking about. What you hear will surprise you. Everything is a problem, headaches, suffering, with only a few joyful and happy expressions of enthusiasm for life. No one has ever achieved mental or physical fullness by dwelling on the negative aspects of life. Despite the fact that we seem to enjoy self-indulgence, we blindfold ourselves to the true joy of living. Perhaps what is happening is that we never believed that a better life was possible. With a little effort, we can untangle the knot of our ideas. Even if we are skeptical about what we will find, we can always turn around and go in another direction just to see the results of following a different way of thinking. It is true that throughout the day unpleasant things can happen to us, but favorable things and pleasant encounters also await us as the day unfolds. And at the end of the day, let our thoughts focus on pleasant things. We might discover a new joy in life, a bliss different from the one that the Song of Life provides. You are part of the universal mind. You are one with universal substance. You live, move, and have your being in pure spirit. All the abundance, power, and harmony of this spirit dwell at the center of your being. Experience its goodness to the extent that you accept it, feel it, and believe in it. As you enter life and feel the divine presence in all things, you will hear more and more the melody of joy resonating at the center of your being. Just be quiet and listen to it, for it is always there. Say, knowing that the divine presence is at all times closer to me than my own breath, I have nothing to fear. I feel its loving protection around me. I know that the song of joy, love, and peace always resonates within me, singing its hymn of wonder and beauty at the center of my being. Thus I free my mind from all unhappy and negative ideas. I direct my thoughts to the Sun of Life, to light and laughter, to the joyful presence of the resplendent Spirit. I set aside all anxiety, all struggle, and I allow divine love to intervene through me in my affairs. I joyfully accept greater abundance, success, and deeper peace. Joy springs from within my mind, and life sings its song of ecstasy in my heart. The most important diet, for one reason or another, seems to be at the center of our society's concerns. The persistent question is what to eat and what not to eat. Although we don't actually do much with our diet, the subject can provide material for more than one conversation. Thus, we find that, in most cases, the diet fuels our ideas more than our bodies. This automatically leads us to wonder what kind of food we give to our minds. In addition to worrying about the type of food we should give to our stomach, we continually pour all kinds of ideas into our minds for it to consume without paying attention to their value. Sometimes the ideas we throw into the mill of our thoughts are pleasant, easy to consume, and highly beneficial. But other times we literally suffer from mental indigestion. We must always keep in mind that the ideas we mentally absorb are the ones that control the nature of our experiences. If our mental diet is mainly composed of ideas of failure, failure becomes the main body of our experiences. On the other hand, a constant intake of ideas of success will make everything in our lives dynamic and prosperous. The best way to change all these undesirable feelings is to change our mental diet. We must stop consuming the ideas of what we don't want and replace them with those of what we want. We are the best doctor to prescribe our own treatment. We must also be good patients and take the medicine we have prescribed for ourselves. It will take some time to notice the effects, but there is no doubt that improvement awaits us. Spiritual food fills all space and animates all forms. Thus, the Spirit is the true actor of everything. However, the Spirit can only help you by acting through you. This simply means that God can only give you what you accept. When you daily enter your divine inheritance with thought and heart, you enter the realm of absolute causation. Have absolute certainty that from the secret place that the Supreme occupies within you, the objective manifestation of all your legitimate desires will project. Truly accept abundance. It is true that your thought animates your experiences with the idea of fullness. You truly affirm that the divine substance always flows towards you to nourish you. Say today, I exalt abundance in all things. I praise everything with the idea of abundance. I remember only the good. I expect greater good. I experience goodness. I become aware that the Spirit acts everywhere. I give thanks because the beneficent action of the Spirit flows more and more into my experience. There is something in me that sees, knows, and understands this truth and fully accepts it. There is enough goodness in circulation, so I do not deprive myself of this goodness, nor deprive others. I proclaim over and over that abundance flows in all things as nourishment. Now, I accept for myself everything I need to make my life a joyful experience. The internal climate, except for our feelings, seems to be one of the most discussed subjects. When we talk about the climate, we indirectly tell others how we feel. Some people love the heat, while others shy away from it. Some people are depressed by the cold, while others are invigorated by it. Even though we can adapt to all weather conditions through clothing, heating, and air conditioning, they evoke favorable or unfavorable reactions in us. So if we think about it seriously, what really concerns us is our internal climate. We tend to forget too often that the climate, whether we like it or not, is essential to make this planet habitable. In fact, it is thanks to climate changes that life could begin. If we consider the Earth as a living organism that breathes, the vast masses of air circulating through it, feeding on the marvel of the circulatory system formed by the evaporated water from the seas and eventually reaching the dry land, are constantly regenerating through an infinite process of destruction and reconstruction. The Earth has an infinitely complex structural system. It breaks down and recomposes itself through the disintegration of rocks, which become soil or sand, and then form new rocks. This cycle avoids falling into paralysis with the infinite sequence of seasons. If we consider the Earth in this way, we will recognize that all seasons are necessary. It is not the climate that should worry us, but allowing ourselves to be affected by these same climate changes that make our life on Earth possible. Peace must exist. A fundamental harmony must be present at the center of all things, or else the universe itself would be chaos. This is something you already know and believe in. Now, you just have to act accordingly. Henceforth, you will not only believe it, but will behave as if it were true because it is true. Peace is at the center of your being, a peace that you can feel throughout the day, as well as in the cool evening when work is done and the first stars begin to shine in a twilight sky. Harmony floats silently over the earth, tenderly, like a mother watching over her child. Say, "In the peace that gently cradles me, I find strength and protection against all fear or anxiety. In God's peace, where I feel the love of the Holy Presence, I am aware of this love, of the protection it offers me. All feelings of fear fade away in me like mist with the light of dawn. I see the good in all things. I see God personified in all men, life manifesting in everything that happens. The Spirit is nothing separate from people and things that happen to them. I see how it unites everything to itself, animating all things with the energy of its own being, creating everything through its divine imagination, enveloping everything in its peace and tranquility. I form a unity with this deep and lasting peace. I know that everything is goodness." Hope always accelerates progress. Thinking about the good things to come helps dispel the burden of mistrust we carry with us. We must learn to improve our awareness. It is not true that nothing is too good to be true. God's perfection is already an omnipresent reality, even if we do not perceive it yet. We will only receive as much good as we are willing to accept. If we have condemned an organ or function of our body, we should stop doing so. We must stop condemning. Chapter 3. Your mental and spiritual health. Health has many different aspects, and you care about each of them, like everyone else. Sometimes health is not something that can be obtained in exchange for something, nor something that can be bought. But that doesn't mean there are no things that can help you. There is something you must remember. Life is the dynamic energy that animates us. It is this energy that continually seeks to flow and express itself through you. No one can explain what it is or how it works. But there is no doubt that it exists, or else you would not exist. There are many ways to amplify or limit its action. The least recognized, although the most vital, is the power of thought. In your mind lies largely the power to deny or accept, as well as to use the flow of dynamic life energy that created you in the first place. Welcome to all. We all like to think that we are pleasant. We enjoy meeting new people, and our friends are always welcome in our homes. We love new experiences, and in general, we would like life to always be a new experience. But how great is the welcome sign we have above our heads? We feel that there are too many unwanted guests in our lives, without realizing that we have blindly distributed invitations in all directions. The truth is that, consciously or unconsciously, we have invited many of our pains and illnesses. The person who is happy, joyful, and enjoying life is generally free from diseases. The opposite type of person is the one who complains the most about their physical health. If you are grumpy, unpleasant, irritable, resentful, and fearful, these welcoming signs not only invite those feelings, but also equally irritating factors that contribute to your physical discomfort. We must ask ourselves whether we can afford to think as we do. We often complain about catching this or that illness without realizing that we went out looking for it by displaying the wrong welcome sign. Our ideas are like the bait we put in a trap. We can hunt almost any prey we want just by changing the type of bait we use. What kind of bait are you using? What kind of experiences are you welcoming into your life? If you don't like the type of situations that make up your experience, change the sign that presides over the door of your thoughts. Stop sending dangerous invitations. You have the ability and the right to discriminate when choosing the life you want to live. Accept only the good. The goodness in which you believe can triumph over all the evil you have experienced. You are silently associated with the infinite, and this association has never dissolved and will never dissolve. Trust implicitly in your own abilities, aware that the very nature of thought is to externalize, to influence your health and all other aspects of your life. Conscious that you are the thinker, resolutely turn away from all thoughts of lack, desire, or limitation, and declare that God's perfect law operates in you, for you, and through you. Say, "I have absolute confidence in my knowledge and understanding of the law of the Spirit. I not only know what the law is, but also how to use it. With this knowledge and confidence in my ability to use the law daily and for specific purposes, I gradually develop unwavering faith, both in the law and in the possibility of demonstrating it. Today, I declare that my thoughts will only be affirmative, positive, and constructive. Today, I believe that beneath me, there are infinite arms, and I rest in the divine trust and security they provide me. I know that not only my mind and body are well, but also all my other affairs. How many years do you have? Birthdays always come, and as the years pass, it seems that they do so more frequently. But regardless of what the calendar says, the saying that you are as young as you feel remains very true. And this leads us to wonder what determines how we feel, what gives us that sense of vitality, well-being, and continuous enjoyment in life. Milton Golin, in an article for the Bulletin of the American Medical Association, presented the results of a study on an elderly population. He emphasized that there are strong reasons to believe that continued vitality and growth largely depend on having a positive reason to live. Without this reason, a 35-year-old person can be old, while an older person with a reason to live can be young. It is evident that life is always something active, creative, and constructive. We are an integral part of this life, and not something separate from it, so it is also our responsibility to be active. We need to have something to be active in, a positive and productive vital interest. In other words, we need to arm ourselves with a reason to continue living. Often it seems to us that we have reached the end of our rope, but there is more rope available to us if we open our minds and start thinking a little. Some people will find the interest of their lives in building bridges, others in growing geraniums or taking care of grandchildren. Others may offer younger ones the wisdom they have gained in maturity to cope with life's problems. Regardless of the date on the calendar, there is always a reason to be alive, a positive reason. You can find it too, and you will find it if you stop hindering the flow of life through you. Renewal. Your body in each of its parts is a manifestation of the Spirit, of its perfect design in the mind of God. It cannot undergo any deterioration. Right now, the divine vitality constantly flowing through you takes the form of perfect and complete cells. Each of the cells in your body is healthy and vigorous, full of your life and vitality, energy and purity. Your body, the spirit that has taken shape, knows neither time nor limits. It only knows how to express itself fully and completely, instantly. Say, I recognize that the Spirit is in me and that it is what I am. I let this recognition of the divinity within me flow through my entire consciousness. I let it reach the deepest part of my being. I rejoice in my divinity. I become vigorous, robust, and mentally creative. I renew my strength with the perfection of God and good actions. My body is healthy and capable. God's life is my life. God's strength is my strength. God's thought is my thought. Every breath I take fills me with perfection and vitality, renewing every cell in my body. I am born of the Spirit and the spiritual, and I am the Spirit manifesting at this moment. Healthy convictions. Medical researchers have long insisted on the relationship between stress and bodily ailments. Stress, which encompasses a wide variety of mental and emotional reactions to life situations, can be a determining or causal factor in many of our diseases. But it is often difficult to identify the origin of stress. Perhaps it is a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is what doctors and religious authorities are discovering. For a long time, it has been suspected that religion is a source of energy and refuge, offering spiritual peace. But often, this is not the case. It cannot be said that religious beliefs are good or bad for people. It is rather people's reactions to religious beliefs that are good or bad. Religion should give us a healthy and joyful attitude toward life. It should also lay the foundation for a healthy relationship with ourselves, with other human beings, and with the Creator. When it does not provide us with a sense of well-being, but rather inspires fear, apprehension, and anxiety, then religion becomes a source of stress. Whatever everyone's religious beliefs are, it is worth examining them carefully. Do they bring us joy and well-being, or do they gnaw at our vitality? We must decide for ourselves which beliefs satisfy our needs and are good for us, and not let others or family tradition determine it. Each must live their own life. Fundamentally, religion is the personal, intimate, and intense relationship between us and that higher force beyond ourselves, and the channel of communication is our thoughts. For our good or poor health, what are you doing through your thoughts to facilitate or hinder the enjoyment of good health and wholeness? Despite any physical deficiencies your body may experience, there is in the mind of God a pattern of perfection for it. If it were not so, it would never have been created, would not be sustained, would not renew itself. Your life belongs to God, and your health is an expression of the perfection of the Spirit residing within you. Recognizing that there is a river of life in you, flowing from the eternal source of life, you cannot help but open your mind and accept the total influx of its creative life energy. Say now, I affirm that the living Spirit animates every organ, every action, and every function of my body. There is a perfect thought directing my thoughts, a complete wholeness supporting my being, a divine influence flowing through me day and night. I am aware that the divine life flowing in me renews every cell of my body in the image of its own perfection. I am thankful for this silent energy that sustains me, and I say to my own self, you must believe in this energy, you must accept it, you must let it flow through you because you are one with it. There is no other energy, no other presence, no other life. Thus, all the energy, all the presence, all the life that exists marries you at this very moment and will continue to support you. Grandmother's sayings. There are many sayings that could be called grandmother's sayings. These are familiar sayings that convey apparent wisdom, which may or may not contain truth. However, there is always the possibility to laugh at them because we do not want to face the truth they contain. One of these sayings refers to the idea that a pregnant woman should be free from any anxiety. Recently, this saying is considered merely a kind and respectful gesture toward the state of a future mother. It is astonishing that the pendulum has swung again, and the idea of keeping the mother free from worry has been reaffirmed. The latest medical research widely demonstrates that for a child to be born normally, it is necessary for the mother to be free from stress during pregnancy. If stress, worry, and anxiety can influence the normality of a fetus, it seems logical to think that these mental states also affect those of us who are already born. Of course, this is well known in psychosomatic medicine, and many of us are already aware of. The consequences these destructive attitudes can have on our health in everyday life. It is normal to encounter stress, pressure, and anxiety. If that were not the case, we would not be alive. We would be mere accidents. What we need to watch is how much we allow ourselves to be entangled in these destructive attitudes that have such detrimental consequences. It's not that we don't know how our thoughts influence our health, but we don't want to bother changing our ideas. Inner energy. It is possible that you have used your mental energy to produce with it the same limitations from which you want to escape. When you finally realize that, unconsciously, you may have done exactly that in your ignorance, do not blame yourself or others. Knowing that you are a child of God, as we all are, you must begin to express your divine heritage. When your thought is structured, according to the supreme concept of spiritual perfection, your life will become a reflection of that same thought. Say today with awareness that my life truly reflects what I think. I let the Spirit in me guide and direct my thoughts and emotions. The divine influx refreshes me every day, and I feel saturated with the very essence of life. I feel it flowing in and through me. Now I know that I am simply a perfect instrument in the divine symphony of life, and I am in harmony with its perfection and harmony. My body is an instrument with which life plays its perfect harmony. I seek no other power, because there is only one power, which I am now ready to use, the power that I now know to be eternal, and has always been at the center of my life. I know that this power heals everything, overcomes every obstacle, and frees me from all falsehood. So be it. Living longer. For a long time it was thought that the more energy and abilities one preserves, the longer one lives. In particular, reference was made to brain activity, the type of activity that many avoid. It was said that intellectual activity shortens a person's life. Now, it seems that the opposite is happening. A Swedish researcher has shown that those who engage in intellectual activities live longer than others. This does not mean that less demands are placed on the body, but that mental work acts as a tonic and a source of vitality for the entire organism. In fact, other reports demonstrate that, concerning the heart, the same is true when physical work is done compared to mental work. One possible explanation is that, in one way or another, all bodily activity is influenced or controlled by what we think. If we become mentally lazy, the body will do the same. If we constantly feel upset or fearful, the body will start malfunctioning. On the contrary, if our ideas are actively constructive, the body will react in the same way. No matter how much others think we are active, we will remain mentally lazy if we do not always use our full mental capacity and constantly strive to develop it. It's a personal equation that requires us to always give our best, and the best of ourselves knows no limits, even if we are not aware of it and rarely use it. Thus start thinking and you will live longer. The inheritance of the kingdom of God is within your reach. The wealth, power, and glory of his kingdom belong to you today. You are not stealing from others when you enter the fullness of the kingdom of joy, the kingdom of abundance. You just acknowledge that we all belong to the same kingdom. You are simply claiming for yourself what you wish the divine spirit to do for others. Eternity is always filled with the perfect presence of life. You have always been and will always be the perfect conception of the eternal spirit, which is God, the all-powerful spirit. You are a creation of the spirit and have received a divine inheritance. Say today, I enter into the limitless variations of self-expression that the divine spirit projects into my experience. Knowing that every experience is the play of life with itself, the unfolding of love in its self-expression, the arrival of good to the joy of its own being. I enter into the play of life with joyful anticipation, with enthusiasm. Today, I enter into my divine inheritance and free my mind from the belief that external adverse conditions imposed on me are necessary and cannot be changed. I declare my status as a child of God and the freedom that comes with it. I drink from the abundance that life offers me. There are rabbits in our minds. Often, we are amazed and amused by the infinity of things a magician can pull out of a hat. We might not be very skilled at extracting live rabbits from a hat, but it is very possible that we are better magicians than we believe. In fact, any magician would seem an amateur compared to the things we can extract from our intellectual hat, and all this without any tricks whatsoever. Everything is purely real. Let's see what we are capable of. We have a disagreement with someone, one of those conflicts that become so acrimonious that they truly affect us. We become tense, our heart suddenly races. We discover that we have a knot in our stomach, and our digestion is almost halted. At this point, we have likely forgotten the disagreement. We start worrying about the state of our stomach and the possibility of having an ulcer. We spend so much time worrying about the ulcer that we end up with a headache. Then come the pains and discomfort in all other parts of the body, which, of course, give us reasons to make a bigger show. The grand finale arrives when we are so exhausted that we can't go to work, and there isn't a single part of the body functioning well. It seems that we need to become aware of our strange magician-like abilities. When we are conscious of the great capacity we have to cause ourselves problems, perhaps we can be more cautious about its use. It is also worth considering whether this great creative capacity we possess could be used in our favor instead of only to our detriment. There are so many good things to experience in life. Let's learn to focus on how to draw them from the creative power of our thought, the invisible good. You must begin to understand that while your body is something real, tangible, with a defined form, it is at the same time made of living matter infused with divine life. Whatever substance your body is made of, though we call it material, it must be made of the same essence as all things. That's why it's necessary for you to feel eternity in the same cells and tissues of your body. Say, becoming aware that the spirit in me is God, being fully conscious that this divine presence is the principle sustaining my life, I open my thoughts to its influence. I open my consciousness to its effusion that brings with it all the power of the infinite. I know that today, like every day, I silently draw into my experience an increasing amount of vitality, health, joy, and harmony, guided by God. Everything I think, say, and do simultaneously becomes a good work. A productive and enhanced work exists for me in advance, a perfect and invisible pattern. My faith draws from this source and makes visible what I could not see before. The harmonious action of life now permeates every part of me and my experience. All the good that exists now belongs to me. The high price we pay for living. Everything we get in this world has a price, of course. We all know that our money is worth less and less. But we are not talking about that kind of price. We pay for everything a price that can be measured in any currency. Eminent medical researcher Harold Haywolf from Maryland, after several years of studies, summarized this idea clearly and precisely. There are things much more important than material comfort, and even some more important than health. Clinical trials have shown that stress-centered mental patterns, intense emotions, anxiety, fear, and other physically weakening attitudes can have a devastating effect on the body. Take, for example, a man who earns a good living but is subjected to so much stress and tension at work that he develops an ulcer. He faces the dilemma of changing jobs and losing material quality of life, or continuing in his position and sacrificing his health for a higher salary. Dr. Wolf states that each person should be able to know what price he is paying to achieve his goals and act in a certain way. In choosing, he may have to pay for it with pain and illness. Instead of sitting and letting situations, conditions, and problems overwhelm us, could we not develop a mental state that allows us to face and deal with them intelligently and emotionally maturely? When we learn to face life's problems without sacrificing our goals or comfort, we can be serene and prosperous. The price to pay is to control our thoughts. Physical perfection. Your body is the temple of the living spirit, a spiritual substance. As the Spirit of God has entered you, your life is spiritual. The Supreme, always present, exists at the very center of your thought. This presence in you has the power to renew everything. Say, I know that the perfect life of God dwells in all my being, in every part of it. Like the sun disperses the fog, so does my acceptance of life dispel all pain and discord, reshaping and recreating my body, according to the divine pattern in the mind of God. Right at this moment, the living spirit is flowing through me. I swing wide the doors of my consciousness to receive its influence. I allow my body to receive the flow of spirit in each of my actions, its functions, its cells and organs. I know that my entire being manifests life, love, peace, harmony, strength, and joy of the spirit that dwells in me, that is embodied in me, that is my entire being. I am aware that all the energy and presence that exist envelop me in their eternal embrace. The Spirit communicates its life to me forever. I know that the Spirit in me is my strength and energy. The relationship with ourselves. Many are familiar with the whims of children when they cannot do what they want or do not get what they desire. Sometimes it's a real spectacle, often very violent, but it usually doesn't last long and the child quickly regains their joy. We think these whims are just a stage of the growth process and that children will overcome them as they grow. But true, we have overcome them. Of course, we can't throw a tantrum for others, but perhaps we unconsciously do it for ourselves, thereby causing real trouble to our body. When we have to do something we don't want to do, or when we have to do it at a different pace than we'd like, medicina has shown that the body often throws a tantrum in the form of a migraine. In such cases, tranquilizers may be little or not effective. If we learn to recognize the conditions or situations in daily life that can contribute to migraines or any other discomfort, we can treat them objectively instead of reacting unconsciously with a bodily tantrum. However, instead of being like a child who quickly overcomes their problem, we tend not to be fully aware of the nature of our difficulties, and therefore we spend days or even weeks or months disturbed. In addition to the problem coming from the outside, we have an internal problem that complicates the situation. The next time we face a situation that makes us say, "This gives me a headache," we should try to change our reaction. There is more truth in our words than we believe. Self-control. You are part of a divine whole, and the words you speak contain all the energy and presence of the Spirit, instantly, perfectly, and permanently. They create a whole. Know that you are an individualization of the Spirit, the source of wholeness, love, reason, and intelligence. Empty yourself of all ideas that deny this truth. Know that silently but effectively, the divine energy of the invisible Spirit is working in you, here and now. Say, I accept this certainty with total confidence. I am aware that I am a perfect being, living in perfect conditions, and I know that only the Spirit is real. I also know that only the Spirit has the power to act or react. Everything I think, say, or do today, I will do from the spiritual knowledge that God is in all things. It is enough for me to recognize this energy to neutralize any false perception, straighten what is twisted, and smooth what is rough. I know with certainty that this knowledge brings harmony to my experience. The art of getting sick. Inside and around us live microorganisms that, as soon as they have an opportunity, multiply joyfully and cause us enormous suffering and great sadness. We live in a state of peaceful coexistence with the microscopic world until suddenly it flips, and as if fallen from the sky, illness strikes us. Many factors are responsible, but more and more attention is being given to individual work. Or perhaps we should see it the other way around. It's not so much the work itself, but the individual's negative reaction to their work that can become a very sophisticated technique. It seems that our mental and emotional responses to work can cause such radical changes in our bodily functions that our defense mechanisms decrease, leaving us at the mercy of the microscopic world around us, and in other words, we get sick. This is something that often happens, but we are generally not aware of why it happens to us. Of course, one solution is to stop working, but even then we would still find a way to continue feeling disturbed and dissatisfied, leading us to the same consequences. We cannot escape life, which does not mean we have to feel comfortable with everything we encounter every day, at work or in our daily life. However, we can learn to adopt a flexible and benevolent attitude toward everything that comes our way and try to find a solution to it. A good start in this direction is to sincerely look for at least one thing in our work that can please us. This way of thinking can be contagious, and before we know it, we will have regained our defenses. Loving life is living eternally new. You are a unity with life, and the Spirit continually creates in you and through you. There is no darkness, despair, or discouragement in the Spirit that creates everything. But people have sought all kinds of indirect means to deprive themselves of the abundant goods available to them. The key to success in life lies in your mind and in your thoughts. You are the master of your own destiny. I say, I have the will to be well, to be happy, and to live joyfully. I affirm that in my experience, there is only what represents good health. I can perceive this good. I believe in it, think about it, and hope it will continue. Everything I do with joy. To everyone I know, I embrace them with love, aware that my roots are in the purity of the Spirit. I trace my life back to the original source and know that all the activity of my body is now in perfect harmony with the only perfect life. I reject and eliminate any contrary idea. In its place, complete conviction is established that my body is the temple of the living God at this moment. I am reborn, renewed, and whole as divine love infiltrates my inner being. God's life is now my life. Learn to deceive yourself. Do not deceive yourself by often telling others, or having them tell us, that things are not as we think they are. Many of us take particular pleasure in daydreaming and indulge in all sorts of fantasies. Even if we are not aware, many people have developed this practice to such an extent that it has become an art, and a highly practical art. Often, we feel physically, mentally, and emotionally depressed. Everything seems wrong around us, and we stubbornly follow the same path. This indicates that we are letting external circumstances govern our lives. In reality, it should be different. We have no choice but to navigate through the experiences that daily life presents us with. But we must not forget that we have our own life to live and that we must learn to manage it. This is where we can start learning the art of self-deception. When we feel mentally attacked, start thinking about the happy moments we have had or hope to have. If we feel physically weak, spend time reflecting on how wonderful it is to feel well and try to mentally feel the pleasure of being well. Regarding emotions, when we feel tense, if we force a smile or a burst of laughter, soon we will do it naturally and free ourselves from tension. If we continue to do this systematically, we will soon discover that we are experiencing these same positive thought patterns that cost us so much to create. When we realize that constructive self-deception is indeed a very practical task and a true art, then our life will balance more normally. Receptivity. It is impossible to receive what your mind refuses to accept. If you want to receive more, you must consciously develop the ability to mentally accept more. You deprive yourself of meaning in life and limit its possibilities when you refuse to accept all divine good. If you open your consciousness to greater receptivity to the divine, to a broader conception of the goods that may come into your experiences, life will take on a new and wonderful meaning. I say, now I tell myself that my ideas are filled with the anticipation of a fuller life. My mind expands, and I know that a greater blessing will enter my experience than anything I could conceive. I believe it wholeheartedly and accept it as such. My body and mind are always open to the influx of everything that contributes to making life vibrant and joyful. God's silent and precise action peacefully readjusts everything in my life, as I free myself from all ignorance, doubt, and fear, and completely clear my mind of ideas contrary to my well-being, only expecting ideas that produce health, fullness, and happiness. All the abundance of the kingdom of God fills every moment of my days. Nothing in the universe limits you or desires to limit you. Nothing in the universe is hidden from you, for if it were, it would hide from itself. Therefore, you are part of its ultimate purpose. The Spirit seeks you, encourages you, and pushes you towards self-realization. No matter how much the Horn of Plenty offers its gifts in the universe, if there is no bowl to receive them or a chalice to welcome them, its gifts will not be fully realized. Chapter 4. The future belongs to you. We all have dreams for our future, but we do little to materialize them. Tomorrow is always that wonderful moment to come, probably linked to memories of the past and concerns of the present. Often, we let the future sort itself out more or less on its own. However, the future has always known how to take care of itself. Nevertheless, what you think today determines your future. It's like a screen where the images of your today's thoughts are projected. At any moment, you can change these images, replace them with others that you truly like. This does not mean indulging in daydreams, mental desires, or vague expectations of the best. Your ideas are dynamic energy, but to actually create new experiences, you must use them in a concrete way. Limited ideas. Too often, we impose limits on our thoughts by assigning a restrictive meaning to certain words. Harvard physicist Harlow Shapley emphasizes in one of his books that all we know about the world can be summarized into 4 fundamental concepts: space, time, matter, and energy. However, Shapley poses a very significant question. Is it possible to build the universe from these 4 elements, or do we need a 5th factor? This 5th factor he refers to is a mystical entity that most people call God. Shapley insists that we should not reduce such a vast concept by linking it solely to our individual lives and the small part of the universe in which we live. Although we may never fully understand the nature of this master entity that uses space, time, matter, and energy to intelligently create everything that exists, it remains a fact that our idea of God should not be limited. By limiting the nature of God according to our understanding, we also limit our health or success to what we consider success and health. If there is something that seems limitless, it is our capacity to think. Our thoughts are free to reach any height, but we often only think up to a certain point, beyond which we build barriers that we dare not cross. We should let our thoughts become a ladder to new freedom and greater adventure in our lives. Expansion. Everything in the universe is the individualization or unique expression of one thing that is the cause of all things. You must be aware that the unique creative energy expresses itself in you uniquely and continually pushes you, seeking to give more scope to its infinite possibilities. You don't need to imitate or compete with anyone, because you are a special creation of God, just like others, and you have full access to the unlimited potential of infinite intelligence. Today I commit to being myself and seeking to more fully reveal the miracle of life. I discover greater joy in the simple act of living, as well as the wonder of being that continually springs forth in me. I simply and directly think from the center of my being, which is God, the living Spirit. I enter into the believer's faith, the joy of knowledge, and the act of living proclaimed by the unique energy and the only presence that is in all things. Today, like a child, I welcome this presence that responds to me personally, warmly, and colorfully. It fills me with vitality, opens my mind to broader perspectives, and imbues me with love for life. When I accept my relationship with the infinite, I discover a new freedom. My thoughts rise, my experiences expand, and limitless joy fills my entire being. What truly matters? As all studies show, interest in religious subjects continues to grow. Rivers of words on the theme continue to flow from podiums, radio, and television. Sometimes they impress listeners, other times they merely provide a topic of conversation. However, it is rare for a person to firmly believe in the value of belief, to have absolute faith in the value of faith, without being a believer or having any faith. Sincere belief and faith have a very healthy effect on individuals' health as well as their experiences. But for a person to have religious convictions simply because they talk about faith and belief is very far from reality. Religion is fundamentally something very personal. It is a way of thinking and believing that dominates our thought patterns and is reflected in each of our actions. It is not a hobby, but a full-time occupation. Religiosity must include at its core an understanding of our relationship with the Creator, with other human beings, and with the world around us. Its foundations must be intellectually and emotionally sound. Being a religious person is not as simple as giving a coat, engaging in conversation, or participating in social acts. It is a way of life that affects everything we do. What truly matters is not what we pretend to be, but what we truly are. And what we are comes from what we actually think, believe, and have faith in: individuality. Life has marked you with the stamp of individuality. You are different from every other person who has lived. You are an individualized core in the consciousness of God. You are an individualized act in the action of God. You are you and you are eternal. Therefore, do not wait for immortality to come to you. The resurrection of life takes place today. Start living the present as an immortal being, and all thoughts of death, all fear of change will disappear from you. You will abandon the tomb of uncertainty and emerge into the light of eternal day. Say, I know that every apparent death is a resurrection. Thus, I die content with everything except the good of God. Silently, I move from less to more, from isolation to inclusion, from separation to unity. Today, understanding that there is nothing in my past that can stand against me, nothing in my future that can threaten the development of my experience, I know that life will be an eternal adventure. I delight in contemplating the immeasurable future of the path of eternal progress, the eternity of my own being, the continuity of my soul, the renewed energy each day, and the actions of divinity in me that has placed the seal of individuality in my mind. Our unique ability, from the child building sandcastles to the elderly person carving a cane, from the scientist researching to the person preparing a new dish for dinner, we find multiple proofs of how creativity works. It seems that creativity is a fundamental impulse that compels us, by necessity, to find solutions in a constructive way. If we want to be complete human beings, it would be wise to examine ourselves from time to time to see how much we are using this unusual virtue. Using creative imagination does not necessarily turn us into great artists, composers, writers, inventors, or financial wizards. Instead, it seems that in everything we undertake, we should somehow find how to bring something new and constructive to our world. We should let our inner self flow into our experience, especially if it is the unique expression of the creative capacity of the mind that we carry within us. Those who can do this are the ones who bring the most to life, who contribute the most to the advancement of civilization, who also create the happiest homes to enjoy a life that produces the greatest good, both for ourselves and for others. We must express to the fullest extent what we are, and reaching our full potential depends on our ability to think creatively and imaginatively. If we delve into the resources we have inside the mind, we will be surprised to discover the unlimited potential that resides there. Thinking is using the greatest gift that life has given us. Why not start using it more effectively? The perfect activity, the creative and omniscient presence, is the source of all that you are. You must believe in the ability and desire of this great source to maintain its own creation, the kingdom. The power and glory of God are expressed through you. Recognize yourself as a core through which the intelligence and energy of the universe find their expression. The infinite mind, operating through you, can bring you harmony, order, and supreme good. Through it, the consciousness of peace and abundance manifests in you. Everything you need to achieve happiness and well-being is part of your experience. Say in my life, there can be no limitations or shortages, for nothing has happened to the only perfect activity that flows freely through me and frees me from any sense of bondage. All power comes to me from above. This knowledge makes me strong with the strength of universal energy that breathes life into everything. I am supported and inspired by a divine flow of spiritual energy that runs through me in the form of enthusiasm and vital ideas. Every aspect of my mind responds to this spiritual flow. Creativity and inspiration are my birthright, and I now express them in the fullest way. A new horizon is astonishing, the resistance of our mind to the influx of new ideas. Too often, our thinking becomes a slave to routine, and we choose barriers that block any consideration, even occasional, that we might give to everything we do not yet know. A letter from a doctor in contact with a hospital in Brazil may well illustrate this point. It seems that one day he was browsing a used bookstore and bought American magazines containing many articles on the effectiveness of affirmative phrases. He mocked the idea, even laughed at it, made a pile with the magazines, and stored them on a shelf. Many months later, he was faced with a whole series of difficult personal situations, problems that seemed insoluble. In a state of despair, he returned to the magazines, not without hesitation, and began to reread the articles. Despite his absolute skepticism, he decided to try the idea of creative prayer. He had nothing to lose and could not take any other direction. The results astonished him. His words were, "It works, it probably works." There are few things we know less than the nature of how our thinking works and its creative power. However, it is only through the mind, which shapes us as we are, that we can achieve anything. Its creative power can manifest itself in both positive and negative experiences, depending on the content of our thought pattern. To the extent that we can direct our thoughts positively, new, happier horizons will open up to use the resource. If you surrender your entire being to the divine spirit, knowing that you can do nothing with your own human essence, you rid yourself of this inherently powerless essence. You set aside your weakness, fears, doubts, misunderstandings, and uncertainties, and you return with thought to that divine core within you, which is God. You must believe in the strength and presence of the Spirit within you, accept its power, and let it guide you. Feel that you speak of this core of divine certainty within you when you declare, "There is only one life. This life is God. This life is now my life." Say, "I know that at the center of my being resides the presence of perfection. I feel the divine life flowing in me, animating every atom of my being, and I feel that all others are of the same nature as me. All live, move, and draw their being from God. Now, I affirm with total acceptance that the intelligence that created all things is guiding me to the realization of all good and value. Such a presence exists at the very core of my being and flows through me, bringing happiness, joy, abundance, harmonious life, and constructive use of the creative power of my mind. Now I am open to new ideas, new hopes, and new aspirations. Modern slavery. A disconcerting report claimed that 1 in 10 people in Western countries is neurotic and needs help. For years, we have devoted all our efforts to trying to build a new and wonderful world in which to live. Today, however, things don't seem to be going so well. Instead of dominating the situation, It seems that we have become slaves to the society and culture we have created. We find that, in many ways, we are no longer able to keep up with them or meet their demands. Such are the things. We will have to learn to solve this problem, or perhaps 9 out of 10 of us will soon succumb to the terrible consequences of living in the world we have created. There seem to be 2 options. We can slow down the fantastic pace of growth of our culture, or we can find a way to grow that gives us back control of our lives. Instead of existing as automatons and slaves to a system from which we collectively try to distance ourselves, we can rebuild our society, but individually, we are solely responsible for our mental development to cope with the pressures of daily life. This is something that no one else can do for us. A fundamental starting point is to have a concrete program to develop greater mental and emotional maturity. However, we must be aware that any degree of maturity we wish to achieve is only possible if we first commit to spiritual growth. It may not be an easy task, but the possibility of regaining our lost freedom depends on it. Live with joy. You must awaken to a new joy of living despite any fears, doubts, or uncertainties you may have nurtured in the past. You must realize that today you start anew. Your world can be rebuilt from this moment. You must intend to be well, to be happy, and to live with joy. Acknowledge that there is nothing in your past that can deprive you of the privilege of living happily, and there is nothing in your future that can bring you anything other than joy. Learn to find in your daily experience only what is inspired by goodness. When you discover the good things that happen every day and believe in them and think about them, you can only expect them to continue to happen. Say, as I become aware that my roots are rooted in pure spirit, I trace my life back to its original source. I discover that every activity of my mind and body is in harmony with the only perfect life. It is this life that flows in me, eliminating everything that does not belong to it. Now, every act of assimilation, circulation, or elimination that my body performs is perfect. I intend to live fully and joyfully, and I am at peace with the world around me. It is my desire to live and let live, give and forgive, and see in every person I meet the divine likeness. By abandoning at this moment any feeling of depression or limitation, I am elevated to a new joy of living by the giver of all life. My heart sings a hymn of happiness and freedom. Do not settle. If there is something for which most of us strive constantly, it is to reach a state of satisfaction where everything is fine, where our problems disappear, and life becomes a joyful existence. At that moment, we would have achieved what could be called mental peace. But is it possible to reach this state of satisfaction, this inner peace, as desirable as it may seem? Even if we like to believe that we are progressing toward this goal, what would we do when we finally achieve it? Perhaps the happiest person in the world is the one who has realized the ambition of their life and has climbed the highest mountain. But at that moment, that person would become the saddest because there would be no higher mountains to climb. Perhaps we should reconsider our ideas about what satisfaction and mental peace mean and find other definitions. These notions can only be understood as something we actively experience and never as a plateau on which we can rest. There is a divine dissatisfaction within use that propels us towards new goals. It is in the process of realizing these goals, and not in the goals themselves, that we find satisfaction and inner peace. You must recognize this divine dissatisfaction within you, this creative impulse that has driven people to greater achievements over the centuries. To deny it is to deny your humanity. The divine presence constitutes your own essence and carries within it the possibility of all the joy of living. We must not entertain limiting ideas that restrict your experience of a good life. There is nothing in you that can separate you from the divine presence, even though in a very different way you may impede its flow within you. Those who accept it have a better chance of knowing the love of God, greater joy of living, and greater good in their lives. Say, I affirm that the Spirit within me will always guide me on the path of happy living. It will always direct my thoughts, words, and actions to constructive channels of self-expression. It will always unite me with others in love, respect, and consideration. I live and move in the infinite ocean of perfect life, in the divine presence from which I cannot be separated, and I draw my being from it. I accept the divine presence as the greatest reality. I know that the kingdom of God is within me. I have absolute confidence in the law of the Spirit that will make my best wishes manifest in my experience. Everything I need to be happy is already established in the divine Spirit and is already a fixed fact. You are responsible. Everything seems to indicate that we must bear an increasing number of responsibilities. Sometimes they seem so burdensome, and we hate them so much that we do everything to avoid them. What is curious is that avoiding responsibilities often costs us more effort and thought than if we were to fulfill them. Trying to flee our responsibilities can have consequences worse than facing them. By trying to avoid external responsibilities, we may neglect the great responsibility we have towards ourselves to maintain our health. By avoiding our obligations, we seem to invite ourselves to physical complications. We tend to escape from certain situations by using tranquilizers. The sedative effect of the tranquilizer may relieve problems, but does not cure them. Healing requires mental discipline that allows us to adapt to the life we lead, that allows us to develop a broader perspective and better control our thought patterns. We must mature to be able to do what is right and overcome the tendency to do only what we like and when it suits us. We will always carry some responsibility of one kind or another, so it is not about getting rid of them, but rather fulfilling them. Life would be empty without responsibilities, and the greatest of all is the one we have towards ourselves, to express the life we carry within us, by satisfying its need to expand and allowing us at the same time to fulfill the obligations that weigh on us. That is when we begin to grow. Satisfaction comes when we learn to get rid of all burdens and leave them in the hands of God's action. You will notice that everything falls into place. Let problems drift away from you and realize that there is a higher energy than yourself and a presence residing within you, ready and willing to guide you in any direction. At that moment, peace, security, and satisfaction will come to you, and you will experience the joy of having done well. At this moment, I free myself from any idea of fear, doubt, or uncertainty, knowing that the infinite intelligence of the Spirit within me knows what to do and how to do it and does so effortlessly. This intelligence guides all my thoughts and actions. Everything I do will bring me joy and prosperity. Every encounter with others will be a blessing for all. The good deeds that manifest in my experience are also good for others. By loving, I know that I am loved. By giving, I know that life will give back to me. By returning to the divinity within me, I invite the presence of God to manifest through me and bring happiness into my life and the lives of those around me. I rest my faith and hope quietly, and I know that in every situation where I find myself, only happiness and joy will reign. A cost-effective way to have fun, we demand higher pay for less working time. This extra money allows us to acquire more things that we consider making life easier and more enjoyable. But what do we do with the extra time we probably have for relaxation, benefiting both the mind and body? However, there is a limit to the amount of entertainment that is beneficial. If we have too much of something, we feel saturated. And what do we do next? It seems that we have a natural need to set goals, to experience a certain mental and emotional satisfaction each time we accomplish something worthwhile. This cannot be achieved by aimlessly playing or idly killing time. It requires something more. We must consciously learn to use free time. It should not be too serious, laborious, or time-consuming activity. It should be something we enjoy doing, but also allows us to achieve a result that brings out the best in us. Regardless of our age, whether we are 20 or 80, the goal is the same, although the type of activity may change. We must not forget that it is more fun to create something than to own it. We must learn to make the most of every minute of our free time for more creative and constructive achievements, better opportunities. Great possibilities are always within your reach. At the core of your being resides a divine force and infinite wisdom, waiting to be unleashed, allowing you to bring more good into your life and make the most of it. There is limitless creativity expressed in all things. Constantly search within yourself for a better channel of expression. Recognize its existence and accept its influence in your life. I now lift up my entire spirit under the influence of divine force and infinite wisdom. I know that I am silently associated with God today, tomorrow, and always. I accept the creative action that the Spirit performs in me, as well as its guidance. I know that new doors are opening for me, new opportunities arise, new ideas emerge in my mind. I find myself in new situations, hoping to accomplish them and achieve new accomplishments. Divine intelligence flows through me, inspiring and guiding me toward nobler goals and more creative tasks. God guides me in all His ways, and new horizons constantly unfold before me. I accept the fullness of life at this very moment. Who is confused? When we feel confused, we tend to think it's the fault of others and never our own. Similarly, when relationships become complicated, we always blame the other person. What parent would not think that their teenager is the most confused person in the world? Research has taught us that young people cause less confusion than they suffer, and many of their problems come from the anxieties and insecurities of their own parents. In the attitude and behavior of children, parents often see their own anxieties. We find the same reaction in all homes, offices, or in any group of people. A person burdened with worries and anxieties can contaminate the thoughts of an entire group of people. When we are surrounded by unpleasant people, whether they are our children, loved ones, or colleagues, before complaining too much about them, it might be good to examine ourselves. It is highly likely that they are only reflecting our own state of mind. The only way to make our relationships as we want them is to remember that they are just a reflection of what we are. If we want to have good relationships, we must think in advance that the relationships will be good, even if it seems otherwise. This is how good relationships will be returned by experience. Regardless of a person's appearance and behavior, they cannot change our opinion of them unless we change our way of thinking about them. Harmony, you live in God's house just like everyone else. God's house is filled with beings of divine origin who will be as divine as you allow them to be. When you look at them, they return the gaze, for that is how life works. Everyone will respond to you based on your recognition. In God's house, there is no jealousy, malice, or pettiness. It is a joyful house, a place of happiness and satisfaction. It is a warm, beautiful, and colorful place. In light of this, your experiences on earth and your relationships are largely what you have made of them by not letting God take care of everything. I know that in the house of experience where I live, God is the host and people are His guests. His invitation is eternally written for all to enter and stay there as guests in His eternal home. Happy, whole, and friends, I fully accept the divine obligation to express only love and appreciation for all I know, knowing that only what I think, say, and do will be returned to me. I let divine love act through me in all my affairs. From now on, there will only be harmonious, happy, and mutually beneficial relationships in my life. I rejoice in the divine harmony that surrounds me. Cooperation, the famous founder of analytical psychology, Dr. Carl G. Jung, said in one of his essays, "I am only concerned with the fate of humanity, this infinitesimal unity on which the world depends, and in which, if we correctly interpret the Christian message, even God seeks His end." This interesting observation seems to attribute considerable responsibility to us, a responsibility that we did not ask for, but could be considered the very reason for our existence. If we think about it, what sets us apart from all other living beings first is the ability to think. We use this unique ability to joyfully follow our path. We use it in a way that reflects the nature of the higher power to us that created us. The physicist and Nobel laureate Robert A. Millikan wrote in his autobiography that the architect of the universe brought us here and endowed us with the mind, and now it depends on us to use it. All the intelligence and creativity of the universe flow through us, and as long as we cooperate with them, we are co-creators of our world. We have probably never taken the time to think about this, but it is an idea of great importance to all of us. We can cooperate with life or fight against it, help or hinder its flow through us. If we cooperate with life and express its nature, we receive an influx of wisdom and an impulse toward the right action. How often do we cooperate? Rarely, only sometimes, or almost always. It seems that, for practical reasons, our ideas and actions must adjust to the highest concept we have of God, who created us. Unity. You live because life lives in you. You move because there is a universal energy flowing through you. You think because there is an infinite intelligence thinking through you. You exist because the divine spirit sought its individualization in you. That is why you are called the temple of the living God. There is a divine spark at the center of your being, but it is necessary to recognize it, believe in it, and act in accordance with that belief. Say now, I recognize my divine birthright. I consciously join with God in joy, love, and a sense of peace. I know that I live, act, and receive my being in the life of the Spirit. God seeks to express himself through me in a way different from the way he does through others. I now accept the responsibility to be who I truly am and respond to what life expects from me. There is a place in my mind that merges with the mind of God, and now I draw from it all my strength and inspiration. The radiance of the presence of God envelops me in this knowledge of unity with God. Everything in my life is constructive, holy, and prosperous. I am the joyful expression of God's nature.